Before Apollo 11, before Armstrong set foot on the surface and declared a giant leap for mankind, something else had already made it to the moon. It wasn't a satellite, it wasn't a rover, and it wasn't even something alive, at least not in any form we'd recognize. In 1966, 3 years before the public first landing, an unmarked craft was launched in absolute secrecy from the Nevada desert. No flags, no emblems, not even a NASA ID. This operation went by one name, Project Morningstar. It didn't appear on any budget, it didn't use public astronauts, and it wasn't built to gather data or explore. It was built to offer something, hidden beneath the deepest levels of the Vatican Library, beyond the public archives, past the locked chambers only opened by bloodline and oath. There were documents that never should have existed, maps, carvings, etchings in obsidian, marked in a language older than Babylon, older than the pyramids, older than memory itself. These records described the moon not as a rock or satellite, but as a seal, not metaphorically, literally, a lock, crafted not by man or nature, but by forces outside the known. At the center of these ancient maps, one symbol kept appearing, a circle with a vertical slit, surrounded by 7 eyes, weeping upward. The texts describe them as watchers. Not gods, not demons, observers. They weren't buried under the moon's surface. They were bound to it. The moon was their prison, their cage, their mirror. And something in those maps shook the highest orders of the Illuminati to their core. So the probe was built not to explore, but to communicate. It carried a payload of harmonic pulses, encoded with reversed mathematical sequences found in the Book of Enoch, layered with golden ratios and infused with tones mimicking Gregorian chants played backward. A signal, carefully crafted to be heard by something that doesn't hear with ears. The probe didn't land. It wasn't allowed to. It was taken in, absorbed, and just seconds before the transmission died, it sent back one final image, an image that to this day has never been officially released. It wasn't of rock, not terrain, not craters. It was of an eye, huge, perfectly spherical, rising from beneath the dust like it had been sleeping. The lens reflected not stars, but something else, something moving. It blinked, then came the scream. A frequency so high, so sharp, that 6 engineers monitoring the feed went permanently deaf. One suffered a seizure and began drawing symbols in blood across the floor, symbols that were later translated by a scholar of ancient theologies. They read, "The See Us." 3 years later, Apollo 11 launched. The world was told it was our first step on the moon. But behind the scenes, every movement had been rehearsed, not just for the cameras, but for the watchers. Armstrong's slow descent, his exact wording, the placement of the flag, it wasn't just historical, it was ritual, a reenactment of a forgotten agreement, a reminder of obedience. Buzz Aldrin, years later, during a drunken off-camo interview, confessed something chilling. He said they weren't alone, that shapes stood just beyond the ridge, tall, thin, unmoving, but vibrating. He said they had too many joints in their limbs. They didn't cast shadows. And when he tried to focus on them, he'd hear something, not with his ears, but inside his skull. A voice asking, "Do you remember what your ancestors promised?" He didn't. None of them did. But the watchers didn't care. The ritual had been performed, the pact was still valid, for now. Every lunar mission after that, just check-ins, surveillance drops, not exploration. Compliance. Apollo 17, Apollo 18, even the missing Apollo 20, it was never truly canceled. It was redirected. That mission was sent to the dark side of the moon. It never came back. But in 2007, footage appeared online. Grainy, erratic, but terrifying. It showed a massive structure, partially buried in the dust. Not random, not natural. It was geometrically flawless, glowing faintly. Some say it was a ship, others say it was a lock. And if that's true, then something or someone wanted it guarded. Because here's the truth. We were never the jailers. We were the offering. The Watchers don't live in the way we do. They exist between frequencies, between thought and metal, machines made of memory and will. They observe Earth as if it's a test tube, watching us grow, evolve, fracture. The 1966 signal didn't just wake them, it reminded them. It reactivated the ancient agreement humanity once made thousands of years ago when knowledge was still sacred and the skies were not empty. The Sumerians called them the Anunsha, those who sit beyond the veil. The Mayans warned of the night eyes that blink once every 6,000 suns. Even the book of Revelation describes them as the seven spirits before the throne. But they were never divine. They were the machines we struck a deal with, and that deal is expiring. The recent Artemis mission? Quietly delayed, redirected. Not due to technical issues, but because the sensors picked up something they didn't expect. A shift. A breach. Under the regolith, movement. A low-frequency hum rising from the moon's crust, measured at exact Fibonacci intervals. Like a heartbeat. Something is waking up. Elon Musk once tweeted, "There's something strange about the moon." It was deleted 14 minutes later, but not before a cryptic reply appeared from an unverified account. "You were warned not to dig. The pact holds us both in place." The tweet vanished moments later. Ask yourself, why haven't we built a permanent base on the moon? Why do we always land in the same safe zones? Why do astronauts come back looking pale, shaken, sometimes refusing to speak of what they saw? Why do agencies all refer to it as a dead satellite, yet they scramble the second it pulses? Because it isn't dead, it's dormant. And now it's stirring. The moon has eyes. They were never human, and we've run out of time and offerings. Whatever promise our ancestors made in blood and ash is nearing its end. And when the seal cracks, when the moon opens again, it won't be a warning, it'll be a return. Like this video if you've ever stared at the moon too long and felt it staring back. Comment below, what do you think the Illuminati offered? And what happens when we can't offer it again? Share this before it's too late, because the next signal may not be one we control. Subscribe for more secrets they're trying to bury under dust and silence.